podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Outdoor Drive podcast. This is your boy East Coast Trev, and
This is Steve.
what's up, Steve?
Same old man.
I say the same thing every single intro. I got to come up with something new, I think.
No, it's standard. This is just
It's
kind of the flow.
You know something really funny? I wonder if I can play this. I don't know if it'll let me play. Give me 2 seconds because this is the funniest thing ever. So I have a really good friend who lives overseas, and I met him down in the Dallas Safari Club. And I think I can. You ready for this?
Yeah,
this is
put it
priceless.
up to the mic.
Hold on.
This is your man East Coast Trev with Steve. Just Steve. I've been listening to the podcast a lot and I'm loving it.
So that's my buddy Manish. He is the man, dude. And we're gonna have him on the podcast here in the future. And it was so funny I was like, are you ready for a podcast? Because he just killed a giant roe deer over there where he lives. And he's like, I'm ready. He's like, here, let me show you. And he sent me the intro. And I'm like, dude, you just knocked it out of the park. I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever, dude. I'm like, so awesome.
Dude,
so
bowing down.
Yes,
He even got the
was-
just Steve.
just Steve, right?
Yeah.
Tell me he doesn't pay attention to what goes on here on the podcast. Huge shout out to him, man.
Yeah. We're going to have him get us like a sound bite and add him into the intro.
Yeah, right. That's what I said to him. I said, you're doing your own intro, buddy.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes, So I'm looking forward to that one. So congratulations him on his big roe deer. He shot a giant 6-point roe deer, which I've always been intrigued by them. So I'm really looking forward to having him on the podcast and kind of hearing about the ways of life of hunting over in Britain. So
We're going to have us our first international show.
yeah, and
That's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, and him hunting, like he hunts, like the pink-footed goose and stuff. We were talking waterfowl. He's a big-time waterfowl hunter and everything like that. We were talking about that at the Dallas Safari Club, and I didn't know that he has Chinese water deer and roe deer over there, which are the ones with the fangs and stuff.
Yeah.
He can tell all about it. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to take away, and I obviously don't know crap about what he's got going on, But yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. The intro was absolutely hilarious when he sent it to me.
That is sweet.
Yep. So I'm actually looking forward to this podcast because, to be honest, with everything going on social media nowadays, with the shadow banning and the things, and we're getting like just stupidly attacked. And we don't even know that we're getting attacked, honestly. We're missing out on a lot of things. And I think, with having Brad on from GoWild, he's going to kind of dive into that and kind of tell what is really going on in the world of social media.
Yeah, so he's coming from an insider's view of how this works, how they do things. We all have our thoughts and understandings, what we think is how it works. But listening to him go through it, it's like, whoa, okay. It's eye-opening.
It really honestly is. If you guys haven't checked out his app, you're going to want to go and check it out. It's kind of, and I kind of tear into it because it's on a point system, right? So the more things that you log, you get a point. So it's kind of like a bragging system more or less, but it's not really. And Brad kind of goes into that.
We touch on that because we did kind of play devil's advocate from that perspective for that reason. We wanted to point out that, look, okay, it's another app that's bragging rights. You can't get there. You're not cool unless you're posting giants, and that's not the case. This is built so if you go in, you do your hunt, you record the hunt, your scouts, your everything, and you kill a spike, you can get just as many points as someone who goes and posts a picture of someone with a 200 incher. I mean, he did this to level the playing field for everybody.
So if you're like some crazy killer and you have a certain amount of points, you're not better than the next guy,
right?
And I think that's very important, and it's
the refreshing thing is the app is literally designed to make you want to just go outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And the other thing too, like I get notifications sometimes on the app, which is something I don't think we talked about, but if like somebody needs advice, it'll say, John is looking for advice in this subject. And since you've been linked with some of those trails, you'll actually get the notification to go on there and help that person.
Right.
Which is huge, which is really huge.
Yep.
So, all right. I don't want to tear too much into it. Why don't we break into the sponsors and get this show underway? What do you think?
Let's run through them because, it's a rabbit hole that we can sit and just talk about. So.
All right. Let's do it. Nor'easter Game Calls, nor'eastergamecalls.com. If you guys haven't already, get on over to Nor'easter Game Calls. The Clear Killer is on the website, also with the Widowmakers and the Cheating Hen. If you guys haven't checked those out, those are our mouth calls for the Outdoor Drive podcast, the only ones that will be in our vest. Next week, we actually tear into them. We have a special guest. Mark is going to come on and talk all about those. New Era Archery, neweraarchery.com, the home of the Zues Broadheads, still on sale, $39.99 from $54.99 for 3 of those bad boys. So get on over there, and if you guys are doing those minerals and stuff, B16 is the way to go for you. Latitude Outdoors, latitudeoutdoors.com. They make the Method 2 and the Classic 2. The back bands, they got a lot of cool things coming. You'll see here in June, we're going to do a podcast with those guys and tear into their new products for this upcoming hunting season. Gator Outdoors, be the reason, gatoroutdoors.com. Use promo code OutdoorDrive25 on that bad boy and save yourself 25%. Rack Bracket, Outdoor Drive 10 on that one. That'll save you guys 10% on the racket bracket. The racket bracket. See, I brought it
there
back.
You go again.
So for you guys that have big deadheads and stuff, this is the bracket for you. It's a swinging, holding on, like what is that? Like a 15 degree? You kind of give it a little bit different
like that.
look.
It gives it that natural deer look. So it's not just flat against the wall. The nose is out, so you can display and see the whole rack.
And it's one of those brackets that like you could literally have an earthquake and not have to worry about that thing coming off the wall. It's the most sturdiest Euro bracket in the market, honestly. And as always, a huge shout out to Dirt Road Agency, Mr. Christian Costa, for everything that he does for here on the Outdoor Drive. If you guys have any questions about him, if you guys have a business that you want to get off the ground and sell things online on the store, on a store or whatever, or need a website rebuilt, reach out to us and we'll get you in touch with Dirt Road Agency, Mr. Christian Costa, to build that thing into a straight dream. So let's do it, man.
Outstanding. You want to just
all of them?
Well, yeah, you did a nope.
I hope.
Nope.
Oh, Bow Hunting Magazine, Bowfishing Magazine. If you guys haven't gone and checked those guys out, Mr. Nick Sampson over at Bowfishing Magazine has a really cool online magazine for the outdoor industry. He does a little bit of cooking stuff. He does a little bit of everything. Go and check him out over there at Bow Hunting Magazine. And I also forgot about the man himself, Mr. Dan Young from the Outdoor Call Radio. If you guys are listening to us here on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Pandora, whatever, that's great. But if you guys don't have the Outdoor Call Radio app, you guys are missing out on a whole realm of outdoor enthusiasts who have podcasts from fishing to cooking to hunting to food plots.
Target archery.
He's got everything over there.
And he's got the best of the best. So
he really does. And one thing I ask everybody to do is get onto our website and scroll all the way down to the bottom, theoutdoordrive.com, all the way down to the bottom, and get on there and get on our mailing list. You want to get on this mailing list. This is something going forward in the next couple of months. It's going to absolutely be a huge thing that you're part of it. You're going to see the new things before they get released on a podcast or on social media. You're going to see all kinds of different promotional codes that are only given to those people, kind of like a Patreon, but it's free. And you can get on there and you're going to want to be part of this mailing list. I promise you, the things and the stuff that we have giving away, you're going to want to be on this mailing list. All right, that's better. I got you. We're done. I know you guys don't like advertisements and commercials. We don't do those. We just got a little tiny section.
You got to get the shop business out of the way, man, because the show doesn't happen without support. So
it really doesn't, man. These guys are the ones that have supported us from number one. We're going to see some changes here coming up. We have some new people joining on, maybe some people leaving. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But those are the people that support us and make this podcast actually grow, just like you guys. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a podcast because nobody would listen to us.
Well, let's bring someone else on who they actually probably want to hear from. What do you think?
Who's that, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm giving the guy some credit.
I mean, yeah, he can have it.
bringing you the news for the cruise is our good buddy Mike Salter. Take it away, Mike.
Hey everyone, let's start this one off with a couple things going on in Indiana. First, the DNR will be sending out an angler survey next week to everyone who has a current email address in their electronic licensing system. Anglers can check and update their emails in that system at in.gov/access. The survey questions will cover topics on angler participation, fishing locations, fish stocking, access to fishing spots, and legal fishing equipment. So this is a great opportunity to provide some feedback to the DNR, who plans to use the survey information to develop programs to better serve the state's anglers. So get those comments in and make some recommendations. Also in Indiana, an opportunity for women looking to learn outdoor skills. Registration closes April 10th for the Pacoda Lakes Women's Wilderness Weekend, which will take place from April 22nd to the 24th. Participants will camp overnight in a modern electric campground and learn skills such as archery, kayaking, fishing, Dutch oven cooking, wild edibles, wilderness first aid, rifle and trap shooting, boat operations, self-defense, and other topics. All meals on Saturday and breakfast on Sunday will be provided, and the cost for that weekend program is only $65. So to register, you can call Pacoda Lake Nature Center at 812-685-2447 or email Dana Rekoloff at DRECKELHOFF@dnr.in.gov. So a great opportunity for a small cost there. Now on to Arizona, where the Game and Fish Department has proposed recommendations for deer, turkey, javelina, bighorn sheep, bison, bear, mountain lion, population management, and limited entry permit tag hunts for fall of 2022 and spring of 2023. The hunt structure and recommendations are based on the hunt guidelines approved by the Game and Fish Commission on April 1st. There are going to be no formal presentations for the recommendations, but they can be viewed at www.azgfd.gov/hunt guidelines. And questions and comments are being taken and can be sent to azhuntguidelines at azgfd.gov. So make sure to get those comments in, as recommendations will be presented to the Game and Fish Commission at a public meeting on April 15th. So got to get those comments in quick. Now to Pennsylvania, where the Game Commission will be holding 3 online seminars as part of the Learn to Hunt program. The seminars will be for those interested in starting the turkey hunt. The first one was actually yesterday, but the next 2 will cover turkey biology on April 11th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. and hunting tips and tactics on April 18th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. The seminars are scheduled for a 45-minute presentation with the rest of the time to answer as many questions as possible. These seminars are free but do require pre-registration, which can be done on the Learn to Hunt page on the Game Commission website. So a great opportunity for anyone interested in starting to hunt and getting out there this spring. Lastly, also in Pennsylvania, where biologists recently captured the oldest wild turkey ever recorded in the state. The 12-and-a-half-year-old hen was trapped on February 2nd and was wearing a leg band originally fitted in March of 2012. The hen's estimated age is considered to be more than 3 to 6 times older than the average wild turkey, and she was also captured about a mile from where she was originally banded. The capture was part of a new large-scale research study that will put GPS transmitters on hens across the state. The plan is to fit 100 birds with backpack-style transmitters and leg bands each winter through 2025 in an effort to answer many questions regarding current hen population dynamics. This is one of a few similar studies going on throughout the country trying to understand the downward trends in populations, which is great. Seeing a big uptick in that, so hopefully more programs to come, but that is a very, very old bird. So with that, as always, thanks to everyone that's been sending stuff to me. Some stuff that I didn't see, so that's great to see coming through. You can reach out to me at Mike Salter on Facebook or bearded_bowhunter21 on Instagram if you have anything. And with that, enjoy the rest of your ride.
Thanks for the news for your cruise, guys. If you guys haven't already sent them out some news, I know that the hunting season is coming. The poachers are going to be out. There's going to be a lot of things that need to be heard about. Send it over to Mike Salter on either Instagram, Facebook. Send us an email, whatever. I'll get you in contact with them. Send us snail mail, whatever you got to do. Just get that information over to us so we can get it over to Mike and it can get on for the news for your cruise.
Absolutely. So what are you feeling?
I'm feeling like killing turkeys.
Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it.
Was that the right answer?
I like the answer. It's. I mean, you look at my background right now. I've got decoys laid out that I've got to warm up and finish reforming, and the shotguns are out. I just went through and did all my weapons cleaning and checking, and yeah, I mean it's knowing that we're kicking this thing off Saturday in Virginia. Like I've got everything laid out, ready to go. Cameras are set. I'm just waiting.
I know, and what's funny is I was kind of jealous that you were hunting on Saturday, so I said, "Screw it, I'm going to Maryland on Monday."
Yep, smart dude.
Like, whatever, dude. I'm not missing out on this good time.
And I don't care who says what. One of the best states on the East Coast to get a big turkey is Maryland.
I know, and I said this, dude. I want one for the wall. So I have the bearded hen. I have all this cool stuff you guys have all seen on all social media of all my taxidermy stuff. I wish I never did any of this, but anyways, so I'm gonna mount a big bird, and what better state to kill it in than Maryland, right? I mean, they got you killed your biggest bird in Maryland.
Yeah, my best bird came out of Maryland. It was a 13-inch beard with inch, and one was 5/8, one was 7/8 spurs. And it was a 5-minute hunt.
Jeez Louise.
Bird gobbled in the tree. We moved in, sat down, stuck a hen decoy. It flew out of the tree to the hen decoy. I shot it. It flipped into the river. We pulled it out. We were done.
Golly.
It was nuts. So.
That's priceless. I hope that happens to me. I hope that happens to you this season.
Well, see, I'm begging that happens because after that was the last bird I killed on what I called, your picture perfect easy turkey hunt where everything happens perfectly. Ever since that bird, it's been a grind to get a bird every year. Jeez. So I'm hoping I paid my dues, and this year it's going to come back around, and we're going to have stupid birds again, and we're going to get this done.
It definitely is.
But you're going to get to Maryland and be like, all right, picture perfect hunt, done. It's going to be
nothing wrong with that.
Going to be a banging open week, dude. I'm calling it now.
I'm hoping so, man. We got youth. I got a youth on Saturday, and then I leave here, and I got a youth down there that I'm going to hunt with Sean, and then opening day, you're going to kill a turkey in Virginia, right? It's Virginia, or you? No,
yeah.
It's still Virginia, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's going to be a good thing, man.
Well,
I'm looking forward to it.
Let's just ride it out and see what happens.
That's right, buddy.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think we should get into a less/more political conversation on social media, which
let's see what Brad's got to say.
Everyone knows I hate, but we're diving into this one.
Let's do it. All right, we're back on the phone with the man Brad from GoWild. What's up, Brad? How are you?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. Doing well.
Hey, thanks for taking the time, man. I know you've been kind of busy. You got the little ones, show season, so on and so forth. So things have been a little tough for you.
Yeah, things have been good, man. I mean, show season. This was my favorite show season since we've started GoWild. It was kind of funny because the pandemic slowed things down. But anybody you talk to that was actually went to ATA and SHOT Show would tell you it was probably one of the best they've been to in years because there weren't as many people there. So we had a really good show season. My team was up in Pennsylvania doing the Great American Outdoor Show. We were up there for almost 2 weeks total. It's like platooning basically in and out, rotating team members in. The last weekend, Braden got the flu, I got the flu, and we had to pack out. And I just knew I was sick. I didn't know I had the flu at the time. And I mean, dude, I don't even remember a decent amount of that pack out night. It was like 20 degrees. We're outside in the trailer, loading the trailer to go home. And I was outside for like 3 hours. It took 3.5 hours to get out of there. So that commenced like a week of being deathly ill and laying in a bed for just days on end. But I'm finally recovered from that, except with the exception of a little bit of cough. So I'm kind of backing at them. Been doing some podcasts and, ready to bounce into spring turkey season now.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Had that been your first time at Harrisburg?
No, it's my second time up there. I went up there in 2020 just to scout it out. Me and Jacob went up there and gave it a good feel, just like trying to meet some brands, which I learned it's not a good show to do that. If you're trying to business network, that's not the show. People there are there to sell, and we didn't know. We'd never been to it before, and we went up there also to scout it in case we ever wanted to exhibit at it, and so. That was our first show doing ever with a booth. We did a small presence at NWTF in 2020, but it was very minimal, nothing like what we had up there. So we had like a 10 by 20 and we were selling. That's the difference. When you're selling, it's like a whole different level of commitment. So it's a crazy show. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah. I mean, I think 2020. So the last time that you were up there, I think there were at 178,000 people that went through the building.
They broke the record this year. They broke the record on Wednesday, I think.
Gee, do you know the final numbers on it? I was supposed to reach back up to Amy and I never did. I'll have to do that.
I read in the news, I was reading one of the local news websites while I was up there, and it said they broke the record on Wednesday, which means they had to have had at least 175,000 people had come through. Dude, there were Saturday when it opened was so packed. It was
intense. Yeah.
It was too much because like literally in front of our booth, nobody could stop. They just were like herding through. It looked like I don't know if you guys ever watched Walking Dead, but like in the early seasons, they'd have the herds that come through. That's what it was. Everybody's just kind of shuffling through like zombies. You're like, hey, try our app. And everybody's just like, no one's listening at all,
That's crazy, man.
It was insane. You couldn't walk. Nuts. In fact, I went to try to, I made the mistake that first day of the guys from the O2 podcast. I don't know if you guys know those guys. I went to let in Andrew and Paul, and they went to the wrong door. And I didn't know how packed it had gotten. And I was like, oh, I'll run down. We're on one end of the hall. It's a like half-mile walk down to the other end of the place. And I'm thinking I'm just going to like skip down there. Oh, my God, dude. It was like 20 minutes to get to the other door. And that's me jumping in and out of people, and then I had to walk all the way back. That was the only time I got to walk the floor at all, though. We were so busy, I never left the booth. Truly, I never went out of the shooting hall.
That's nuts, man. Well, that's good, and it's good exposure for you, man.
Yeah, yeah, we had a great show, dude. It was super fun. It was really cool to get to meet people. We had a deal that if you wore your GoWild shirt, you could come up, and we were giving out free tack bags to the guys that wore the shirts. We got to meet and tell a lot of people about the app. So it was exactly what we want. Actually, we ended up doubling our sales goal out of it. I mean, it was kind of nuts. People just show up to that show ready to spend money.
Absolutely, man. Well, what better segment to kind of like, why don't we just dive into it? Why don't you tell us what GoWild is and give them a lowdown on it?
Yeah. So GoWild is a social, if I were talking to you guys as tech people, it'd be a social commerce platform. Most people don't know what that means. It basically means it's social media where you can shop, right? Like we've created this platform that you can share your hunting content and you can load your trophies in. You're not going to get censored. In fact, you get points when you load your trophies in, and those points load onto your profile and they help unlock rewards. So when you get rewards, sometimes it's a free t-shirt, sometimes it's stickers and GoWild branded stuff. But a lot of times, you're unlocking $5 gift cards, $25 gift cards. I just the other day unlocked $100 off of a Garmin Zero bow sight, 25% off muck boots. I think we have one that's like 50% off Vortex items, or like there's some pretty big discounts that you can unlock on the platform. So what it really comes down to, it's a platform where you can share, shop, and get rewards along the way. So in a nutshell.
That's crazy. So when did you actually start GoWild?
The concept of GoWild came about because I really sucked at whitetail hunting. It's like, truly, that's what it came down to, was I was trying to get better at deer hunting. I grew up small game hunting with my dad, squirrel hunting. I grew up, most of my outdoor experience was four-wheeling and camping and hiking. and fishing. Like I like to hunt, but it wasn't what I probably would have identified with as my favorite outdoor things to do. But after college, I started hunting with a guy, and he was really big into whitetail, and I thought it was cool because it was so challenging to like try to figure out where these big bucks were, and that was what he was really into. And I was like, this is cool. Like it's harder than it seems. So I started hunting with him, and a couple seasons in a row, I'm getting deer, and I'm like, this isn't so bad. And then I'm not able to hunt with him anymore, and I'm on public land, not his private land, and I'm like, this is really hard. I have no idea what I'm doing. I got introduced to the Orange Army that first year of like guys just blowing by my stand on side by sides, and I that was a couple years for me, was suffering through sucking. And in 2016, I kind of had this epiphany of frustration. I put in a lot of work. I was buying all the magazines. And I think now I tell this story, and I think sometimes people are like, dude, why didn't you just get on YouTube? But, you know, even 2016, while it doesn't sound that far back, that's 6 years ago. It predates the hunting public. It predates Born and Raised. It predates even Meat Eater's presence of what it is today. I mean, Meat Eater had a podcast that I was listening to, and we're talking about being on like episode 40. Okay. Like this is way early on the content side. And so I couldn't find things. I mean, you would Google like whitetail or deer hunting, and I'm ending up on forums and reading about it for a while before I realize they're talking about mule deer, or I'm reading for a while and I'm like, cacti, we don't have cacti in Kentucky, and I realize it's in Texas and it's totally different, right? And you don't think about these things when you know how to hunt, but a lot of this stuff compounds when you're trying to learn, and it's super frustrating. And so I was like, I just want a place where I can go online and find people that hunt in Kentucky. How is this not possible? And there was that thought that eventually merged with 2016 was at that time the nastiest time we'd ever seen in social media. I think 2020 took the cake on that one. And even, still going forward, it's like every year is now the new worst year in social media history, right? Like people are just terrible to each other. But at that time, it's the Trump Hillary election. Things have just gotten so polarized on social media. And I had this realization because my boss at the time had trolled me before for posting a deer the last time I did it on Facebook, and was like, oh, do you feel like a man now? And that experience, I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to post a deer if I get it on Facebook, because I'm just kind of tired of like dealing with this crap. And that thought combined with the frustration, I'm like, how is there not a place? It's like, what a shame that you can't talk about something you love. How is it 2016 and I can't find a place to talk to guys about whitetail hunting and learn from them? And so I'd never really thought about hunt fish as an industry, and again, I think now things have changed because you've got all these influencers and everybody wants to get into the industry because they see the hunting public and they see, some of these guys people know they're making six figures in money from YouTube or from TikTok. And so it's a different ball game. But I had never really thought about it that way. I mean, you had some media personalities, sure. But I mean, at that time, it's really like, even Hannah Barron her presence wasn't what it is. And so I had never really thought about it. It's just like, it was something I like to do. And so I started researching the industry, and I'm like, oh my God, this is huge. Like how has no one else built an app or a platform that does what I want to do? And then I found some, and I realized like, oh, there's actually been a bunch of them. They just all really suck. And most of those apps, actually all of them, with the exception of a couple, died. I mean, and that's kind of the thing. People launch these things and they aren't tech people, and they don't realize how hard it is, how expensive it is. I mean, if you ever want to blow like millions of dollars, go start a tech company, right? Like it eats it fast. Software developers are really expensive. So I realized though, that I'm like, this audience is huge. They spend a lot of money, and I think I could turn this into a business and quit my job. And so I started trying to figure out how to do that. I had no idea how to do it. I had never done this before. I was working in advertising. Actually, I was a creative director at an ad agency doing branding and websites and stuff. So I put together a team. Within 3 months, we had 4 co-founders who were willing to make no money and work on this thing as a side hustle. I put $500 in, and we started the company together over pizza, beer, and with my dog in a basement. So from there, you know, we worked on it for 9 months and launched it in September 2017 and beta just on iOS. And, you know, fast forward a few years, here I am talking to you guys, and it's like, in some ways it seems like a flash. In some ways it seems like I've never done anything else in my whole life. Like, you know, it's like the fastest and slowest moment in time. But it's been a blast, you know?
Absolutely. I want to play devil's advocate, right? So you were saying that you were worried about posting on social media and having like a deer and then being like kind of shamed on it. Do you think that, and listen, dude, I'm not down talking by any means, but being on that point system, do you think that that's like a bragging rights type thing, or is it,
that's a good
or is it
question.
less like a game? You know what I'm saying? I don't want to downplay it, right?
No, I know it's a good question, because we totally gamify hunting. Like, obviously your bigger deer gets more points. But the thing we do that I don't know of anybody else that does this, we also have a trophy for does. We have like you can load a spike in as a trophy. And the system, the thing that we did that nobody else does, and again, I don't claim, like, we're not Pope and Young, we're not Boone and Crockett. That's not what we're trying to do. But the thing that we do that a lot of people don't understand is we give you credit for things that aren't just antlers. It looks at the weight. There's a weird stat of length, which is like a data thing that my co-founder came up with. But there's all these stats on these animals of like, I'm trying to think through the deer. If you use a compound bow at 50 yards, not that you would do this, that's a long shot for most people, but I'm just using it as an example.
Right.
A compound bow at 50 yards would get you more points than a rifle at 50 yards because it's a harder shot. No, like, that's not something that gets factored in any other scoring system.
Right.
So what we tried to do with that was to bring out other parts of the experience. And the other thing that we do on that point system is we give you points every time that you go outside and log time. And so when you're scouting, when you're cooking your wild game, when you're listening to podcasts like this, you can log time. And what that does is it encourages people to tell the rest of the story and to share more content instead of just like, here's my annual shot of me holding a dead animal. Like, that's what a lot of hunters do. And, you know, we really want to teach people, like, there's a lot of other things that are worth sharing in your story, which I think, like, it's been interesting to watch some of the communities within GoWild build out. Like, the trapping community is really strong and helpful to each other, because a lot of trapping is coming back with nothing. A lot of these guys are like, went out, set X amount of traps, going back out tomorrow, checking them, didn't find anything. Here's what I'm thinking. And their people are working with each other and talking about it. So the system of isn't just trophy based, but it's more experiential. We try to pull out that whole story of what you're doing, the gear you're using, and really, again, I mean, we have a trophy for bluegill. It's like, who does that? You know, nobody looks at a bluegill and thinks that's a trophy worth sharing. But we have a unique trophy system with more than 250 species, I think, somewhere in there.
It's kind of cool to kind of roll through it and see like the different fish, the weights, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's nice. Gear. Like, yeah, yeah. And you have to log what kind of gear you're using, so on and so forth. Or even if you're out scouting, like you said, or, you know, any shed hunting. I mean, you can log all that stuff. An
antler as a shed. We added that a couple months ago. It's cool.
Which is so awesome that you can do that. And I wasn't trying to down talk it by any means. No, I just wanted you to bring out the whole point of what it actually is, so that people didn't think one way over another.
No, it's a good question, and it's not the first time I've been asked that question. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's criticisms to doing it the way we've done it. Just in like one thing, you know, I'll bring up another thing that sometimes people ask is, you know, I'm a big advocate for being a good PR rep for hunting, and some people have said, well, aren't you kind of creating your own echo chamber where these stories don't get told? And that's not really what we're trying to do with GoWild. Again, I'm trying to show people that there's other parts of the story that you can tell, which we do really well with our point system. But at the same time, we firmly believe that we have a platform where you can share those bloody shots that might not be received very well on your Instagram account. You know, when you got your coworker over in accounting who sees it, or HR, or, you know, your crazy Aunt Susan, who is an animal rights activist, or whoever it is that you're pissing off, right? Like within our platform, everybody gets it. And, you know, you might be able to even say like, dude, I liver shot this deer and I had to track this thing for like 400 yards and it sucked. And our audience, people get it. They're like, dude, I did that in 2017 and it was awful. Right. But you can share that more raw story and you can share it with people that get it. And then what I always tell people is like, and then on your Instagram account, you should be talking about the adventure. You should be talking about the food. You should be talking about the trophy, but tell the whole story if you're going to post the dead animal part of it too. You know, I kind of mentioned to you guys before, I've been on this tear with trying to combat some of the things that have been being pushed out in podcasts recently of people talking about like, oh, we have too many hunters, which is total nonsense. The fact of the matter is, like, if you go to sportsmansalliance.org, if you're not familiar with them, they're kind of like the NRA for hunting rights. Dude, the amount of legislation that's coming out every day. I mean, every day there is something that they send out in an email and it's like, here's what this state's serving up in terms of taking away your hunting rights. You know, the fact of the matter is, not only do we need more hunters, we need to hit like other demographics. We need more Latinos, we need more blacks, we need more females. Like, throw your dart at the diversity calendar or your diversity chart, whatever it lands on, go after that, because that's literally the dire state we're in. I mean, there's studies that say that like some states like Wisconsin may not have hunting by 2050. That's the pace we're on with some of this stupid legislation that we're facing. So, you know, I'm a big advocate in telling those stories, but I think there's a time and a place to show, like, you know, a lot of people are like, well, I can post whatever I want. And I know that feels good. And it's like, you know, it's your First Amendment right. A lot of people see it that way, but at the same time, like, there's a difference between First Amendment and what's good for hunting, you know? So I see our platform playing a good role in that people still have that outlet to connect with other hunters. But, you know, I don't see us as like the only place you should talk about hunting. In fact, we should all be trying to use our platforms, you know, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever you're doing, you know, to try to educate people on the conservation, on the food, on the, you know, the just learning about nature. All that stuff's really important.
And I think, you know, you definitely hit the nail on the head about having too many hunters, right? Like, there's no such thing as having too many hunters. And I think throughout all of, you know, the pandemic and stuff, that there was a lot more people that got involved and got outside and did a lot more things in hunting. So we've grown in that aspect. And what, like you're saying, social media has kind of shut a lot of them down. So having an app like yours is very good for them, because now they're seeing a positive out of the social media aspect of it, which those things that we've dealt with for so many years.
Yeah, and for decades, the hunting industry's language has been around legacy and family traditions. And when you look at bringing in new groups, they don't have all that. You know, they don't identify with that storyline. I mean, if a kid in the Bronx is trying to learn how to hunt, they're going to turn to YouTube. They're going to turn to an app like ours, or whatever these digital communities are, you know, digitally native vertical communities. And so, you know, we need to have language that's accepting of that. You know, if I'm only talking about the heritage of hunting, and you've got some kid that's a first generation hunter trying to figure it all out, it's like, well, I don't know. I don't have a grandpappy to help show me the way, right?
It's funny that you say that. So I don't know if you know who he is, but Cliff Cadet, which is Urban Archery NYC, and he had started hunting maybe 2 years ago, right, Steve?
Yeah,
maybe
it's been about 2 years.
So he has a podcast also, and like he would be on there and he would have like yourself or me on there, and he would ask questions like what the lingo is, because guys like us that take that stuff for granted, we don't have we know all that stuff, and we just talk how we talk.
And the funny part is Cliff is actually from the Bronx.
Is he the guy that there's a documentary, like a little 8-minute documentary, maybe Onyx did it, I don't remember. Somebody made a documentary about the Bronx hunter. Is that him?
I don't know.
I say documentary, it's like 8 minutes long, but it's a good video.
It very well could be. It very well could be.
Shaka maybe, but yeah, both first generation hunters out of the burrows down there. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, and so he would ask everybody questions because he didn't even know. Like, he would text me and ask questions, and it was really cool. And then, but you really have to dive into it, because you're right. There's a lot of people that don't know a lot of the lingo that we talk. Like, simple as,
I mean, it's brutal. This is what I was like. I would get those magazines again. I grew up hunting, but a different kind of hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, whitetail is just so different. And you start reading some of these articles, and there's like 30% of the knowledge that's not mentioned. It's just known. But if you don't know it, it's like, okay, play the wind. Think about that one. Okay, what the hell does that mean? Right? Like if you're new to it and you're like truly new and you're trying to figure out how to play the wind, that statement to your audience may sound really obvious, but to a new person, it's like, okay, which direction do I want the wind going? Is it my face and my back? Is there a crosswind? Should there be no wind? Is it like ducks? Should there be wind? Do they not come in if it's windy? Like this stuff gets complicated really fast, you know? I just got into, I've done a few waterfowl hunts, and learning that all over again has reminded me of how far I've come with deer hunting to where I can hang now in any conversation. I'm not good, but I can hang. Waterfowl, it's like starting all over again. You know, I went up to Michigan for geese just recently with my buddy Mike, who I met on GoWild, funny enough. Gotten to be good buddies with this guy. We fish and hunt together. And I went up there, and it's like, I knew nothing about how to do this stuff. And it's like, you know, if you're coming in cold, man, I mean, the people forget what that base layer of knowledge is. And, you know, you just don't realize how much is assumed in articles in Peterson's. You know, the guys that write for Peterson's are so legit, and they're so smart, and been doing this like for 1,000 years, it seems like. And it's great if you're really skilled in trying to learn how to kill a 200-inch deer. But if you're not, and you just want to kill like a deer, it may not be that using to you.
Absolutely.
And that's not a knock on Peterson's. I know Draper, the editor of Peterson's, great dude. They do great work. I'm using that as an example of like, there's a gap, there's a knowledge gap.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Because like if you don't know, like, for example, like bedding, right? So you're like, oh, that's the bedding. So you have to go from food to bed. But if you don't know what bedding looks like, or you're just, I mean, in reality, you're only really guessing where you think that the bedding is, right? But if somebody's new to it, they don't have a clue. If you don't see them bedded there, then you have no idea.
Trail cameras, okay? You get into hunting, it's like, oh, okay, I need a trail camera. You hang a trail camera up on where you think deer will be, and you're like, dude, this is awesome. It's July. I've got deer coming through. This is great. I'm going to come out here on gun season, and I'm going to kill me a deer. You get out there, and it's like, no deer. Where'd the deer go, right? It's like,
no one talks about the shift.
No one talks about it. And it is inexplicably frustrating for a new hunter. I went through this in real time. I lived this where this is probably like 2015 and 16. I was hunting this property down in Appalachia. It's where I'm from. And I had like a 600-acre private tract, which is awesome. That's a lot of private land for that area, tucked into public. As good of a setup as you could have. I had this massive, like really tall 11 point that I was after. He is coming through like clockwork, and I go in there for opening weekend a gun, and I'm so frustrated. I spend a lot of days hunting this deer, and then I happen to talk to the property manager, who doesn't even hunt. He just is there all the time. And he's like, oh yeah, the deer aren't here anymore. And it's like, what do you mean they aren't here anymore? He's like, every fall they go away. They go up the mountain. And I'm like, what are they running from? Like, you know, I'm so stupid because I have been learning about all this. And he's like, I don't know, but they're not here anymore. And then, you know, come to find out, like you said, there's seasonal shifts that I didn't understand. And so, you know, it just takes time. And having one of our biggest missions has been to help people accelerate that process. You know, like if you guys have posted on our platform, you'll see right before you post and hit submit, there's a button that says ask a question for the community. That's like, it's one of the coolest features we have, because the app will then, it knows, okay, Steve's posted this into deer hunting. He is looking for an answer to something with deer hunting. I'm going to let these, however many people, let's say 20 people, know that someone in deer hunting has a question. I think these 20 people can help him. And so not only are we like putting the content out there to where someone might scroll through and see that someone has a question because it gets a little flag on it, the app's algorithm literally works to find people that it thinks would be able to help you with that. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we do. Well, honestly, we don't do a good enough job of talking about some of these features because they are really cool. They quickly address some of the things we're talking about. Like if you're on the platform and you tap that little radar button at the top, you're now looking at people who are either in your state or within 150 miles of you, who are, again, going back to my original problem of like, why am I reading about cacti, right? You know, now with our platform, you can go to the deer hunting trail, which is like a forum. I can hit the near me button, and all of a sudden I'm just got Kentucky deer hunters who I can ask questions of all day long. And the community is super supportive. You know, I mean, I will see threads often on our platform that have 30 comments on them of people going back and forth trying to help each other out. So, you know, in terms of, you know, what I used to be facing of trying to like find a forum, and most of it's from 2002, which is like, doesn't sound that long ago, but that predates Facebook. And a lot of these forums are that old, you know, and, you know, you're trying to find information that's relevant and be able to dialogue with people. We have the best place that I've found to do that, you know.
It's funny that you keep bringing up forums. So I come from the forum world. I had a local forum here, and it's probably one of the biggest things that I miss from the time before is forums, because people were so, it was like an actual community. They were some of the greatest people in the world.
It's awesome. Yeah. But like if you get in a bad one, or like Facebook groups that get a certain size, I don't know what size it is, but you flip like a switch to where there's a lot of assholes. And you know, you'll post something and people are like, that question was just asked 2 days ago, you know, scroll down, and there's all these, it just turns into a bunch of turds at a certain point. But we are very similar to the forums that you're used to. It's just not represented in a forum. Like you're looking at a forum. If you go into deer hunting, you're looking at a forum. It's just very visual. We've made it look more like I hate comparing us to the big platforms, but it looks more like an Instagram.
Right. Which is very important, because those forum guys who go above and beyond were some of the greatest people. They will take care of you. They guide you. We would have a group outing and have 75 people show up.
Yeah.
And they were like best friends. There was no arguments. There was no problems. There was no, it's so important to have that. I mean, a lot of new hunters will, like you said, man, they get on Facebook and you're almost driving them out of the sport because
for sure
they're afraid to post something, man. Like the young kids or even the older people that are new, as we've been talking about, is they get on there and they post a question like how to gut a deer or something like that. And these guys just tear them up. Like, what are you, an idiot? Like, why don't you just go on YouTube? And like a lot of those resources aren't on there, man. We take those things for granted.
Yeah. And dude, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I've seen on there, it's like, if I didn't know how to gut a deer, I wouldn't shoot one. You know, there's all that kind of stuff too. You're like talking people out of starting. We don't tolerate that stuff, man. I mean, it's kind of funny because in a lot of ways, one of the things I talk about is that there's no censorship around hunting, which is true. But if you read our terms of service, and I don't try to hide this, like if people come in and they're jerks and it is against our terms to troll somebody for a trophy that they load that's legal take. If it is a legal spike, you cannot troll them. It's against our terms. So people have been deleted for coming in and trying to pull that stuff on our platform because that's not the kind of community we're trying to foster.
That's awesome.
You know, if you want to come in, like we don't police it from this like, there's not like this moral test that it goes through of like, is it up to Brad's moral code? But there are some things like you cannot troll somebody for a legal take. You know, if you're harassing somebody for legal take, you're out. There's other stuff too that's more of like trying to fight spam or, you know, some other stuff you wouldn't want on a platform like porn. But like from one of the more interesting nuance, those are things you expect, right? Like you expect a social media app to do everything it can to keep spammers away from you. But from people are sometimes surprised that I'm like, yeah, our terms actually say that I can delete you without warning if you're being a jerk to somebody for something they shot. And that's why we built that in, because I don't want the guys that come in and argue and tell crossbow hunters that they're not real hunters. You know, that's not what we're trying to build. You're trying to build a full-on good hunting community.
Support system.
Yeah, like what you said that you were a part of. Like we want that family. And it's funny, man. I mean, you'll see people on the platform, if they'll post their new GoWild shirt that they bought or something like that, and they will say, I love my GoWild family. That is their language that they say. Like it really has a lot of that vibe to it, especially with the OG guys, man. I mean, a lot of these guys have been on there since beta in 2017, you know, my buddy Mike, I mentioned, I met him. He was one of the first 500 people on the platform. So he's been around for a long time, and he's kind of one of our influencers. I mean, you'll look at some of his posts and he's got 80 comments on his posts, you know. I mean, he's getting real traction on his content, and people will tag him now. Like if somebody's asking a question about trapping, they're like, "Oh, Mike Larson should be able to help you with that," because Mike's a guy that people have just kind of learned that he's got 40 years of knowledge in outdoor. I mean, literally anything you want to do, the guy's done it.
I think one of the cool things about kind of the app too is that you can go into the trails, which is so you can kind of like, if you want to go into bass fishing, there's a bass fishing trail, or there's so you can kind of divide it up and get into those different areas if you want to see what's going on for the day.
And when you get into those, it also tells you who the top posters are currently in that trail, which is really cool, because if you're new and you're trying to learn from people, you should go into those trails and find those guys to follow, right? Like if you go into whitetail hunting, it's gonna say, we call them alpha spotlights, which is old language. It needs to just say like trending members or something like that. But the people there are the people that are posting the most and most interactive in that forum. And we're one of the things we're working on, and this is kind of an evolving thing, but working on the experience of making that, what you just mentioned, even more robust than what you would find in other platforms, and trying to really do a better job of when you hit a deer hunting trail or the forum. You know, we're working on pulling all of the best whitetail gear up there, all of our blogs that we've written about whitetail, all of the top podcasts in the platform about whitetail, and trying to make that a holistic experience. That's like truly for 2022, that's the biggest focus of GoWild right now, is trying to, we have so much data, not in a creepy way, in a good way, right? If you're shopping, you want data about products, and we have that trophy feature. So like we know on our platform what boots are most often tagged on trophies. We know what optics people are using. And so we're working on pulling all of that to the member so that you have all that at your fingertips when you're shopping on the platform. And so that's like trying to tie all that together in a meaningful way to help people is what we're trying to figure out right now. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've kind of seen this deterioration in the big box stores of the clerks. And I don't mean to like poo-poo on the 17-year-old working in the archery section, but a lot of times you're asking them questions. Like literally, I went to a big box store. It's close to our office a couple years ago. And I said, I need an arrow rest. And I'm in the archery section. And he's like, I don't think we carry those. I'm like, dude, we're in the archery section. You have to carry these. And he was like, I don't know. I walk around the corner. Here's like an 8-foot section of all their rests. And it's like, oh my God, like how is it this bad? So a lot of what we're trying to help with is keeping new people away from that experience, because that's very discouraging. Because if you were new and you didn't know, you'd be like, oh man, they don't carry arrow rest here. But the other thing that's really overwhelming is walking into, a giant big box store. If you're trying to get into fishing, oh my God, right? Like, holy crap. How do you figure out a system to pull all this stuff together? A lot of what we're trying to solve for is like really reducing the barrier and the friction in that experience, and, bringing it down to, as simple as like, here's what you need to start bass fishing. Here's what you need to start deer hunting. That's where we're trying to pull it all to. You can kind of see the recipe if you're in the platform now. It's like, cool, you guys got some cool gear, and there's like, when you look at a product, like if you look up a Vortex Ranger in the platform, you'll see the deer that people are killing with that product. Like you can see the potential in what we're kind of tying together. It's in this really cool foundational moment as a product, and I think people that get on there now are going to have a really good time watching it evolve over the next like 12 to 18 months, because we've got big plans on what we're pulling together. And it's kind of funny because we've been around for a bit now, and in the startup world, I kind of feel like an old man when I go to some of the local events, because we've been doing this since 2016, and a lot of these companies were formed like during the pandemic. Yep. And I'm like, oh yeah, we were on our third pivot during the pandemic, but because the company's just changed a lot over the years. And but I really feel like people that are getting in there now are going to have a fun time watching it all grow. Like we have 45 brands that we carry right now that you can purchase from. That's going to be in like the multi-hundreds by this summer. That's how fast we're growing right now. So it's a fun time to be a part of it all.
So there's an actual shopping side to it. I've never even seen it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no. So on your app, make sure you're up to date. But are you guys Android or iOS?
iOS.
Yeah. So it's been on Apple for a while. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you're updated because
Yeah.
on the bottom right corner it says shop. So you can go in there and you can start to tap through the brands and the categories. And if you go to like Garmin has its own page now that pulls all their top products in. It's really cool. I mean, like I say this, and my wife would remind you that I'm one of our top customers because like it's like it is a fun way to shop. I buy a lot of stuff that I didn't even know I wanted until you get on there and start seeing everybody posting about it, and I find things and I'm like, I want that. We started selling these hybrid lights. I'd never heard of this brand. And it's a flashlight brand that most of the lights can float. They have a 7-year battery life. They can charge your phone. They're solar. And I was like, I have to have this flashlight. Yeah, it's like a $50 light, but I want it. And I get the bug. I buy way too much on there. But yeah, the shopping functionality is really cool.
It's like a hunting Amazon then.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of it'll recommend stuff too. But it's not too aggressive. Like we try to play. We try not to get too. I don't want to be a hunting Amazon. I want Amazon to want to be a GoWild because we have content that they don't do. Like that's
right.
Like we wrote 27 blogs in 28 days in February. We are cranking out content. We are working with a lot of podcasters. We're really hitting it this year, trying to be more of a content platform. And
It's what's needed, man, with the social media things that are going on nowadays, especially you guys being uncensored. It's something that's needed, especially for the hunting and fishing community or the outdoor community as a whole. I mean,
dude, it's kind of funny. I posted on LinkedIn today. I posted a joke at the end of the day. I said today was one of those days where I just deleted the haters instead of arguing with them. And a couple people there was a little bit more to the post, but that was the gist of it. It was just a joke. And I did delete a lot of comments today. People are like, how do you get hate? Because I in general try to post really positive content, right? I try not to be a negative Ned. I try to uplift people. I try to uplift the startup community. I try to uplift the hunting and fishing community. The funny thing is when I say things like, Facebook is a despicable company and I don't want anything to do with it. I've deleted all my personal platforms off of Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. So I'm not using their products, and people have called me an extremist because of that. And I'm like, well, if being an extremist means that I don't support an organization that literally facilitates drug cartel recruitment, that has caused 330 million adults to be depressed, that causes suicide within teens, I can do this all day long of like all the problems. Like if that makes me an extremist, okay. But like I get a lot of flack for this because people think that that's extreme. But then the second part of that is that they don't believe me that the hunting industry is blackballed by Facebook. And it is like insane to me of how I literally have people that I've had investors tell me that this isn't a problem we're solving because it doesn't exist. Not our people I've pitched for investment. Our team obviously believes in us, but I mean, people will sit there and tell you that this is not a thing. And I'm like, dude, I've been literally since 2017, we've been banned from Google advertising. We've been banned from Facebook advertising. We've been kicked off TikTok. We have had ads taken down on Instagram. I've been through the whole gamut of all of this stuff. We've had content deleted off of these platforms. Our Instagram account is shadow banned. We haven't grown that account in 3 years because it's stuck.
Feel you there.
So, I mean, and people think I'm making it up. Well, I now have spoken with or had him on my podcast 4 times now, Chuck Rossi, who was one of the first engineers at Facebook through building out a lot of the infrastructure for the ads and the ad policies. And Chuck literally wrote the book on how Facebook deals with guns and weapons and hunting, and really was an advocate for trying to help the industry. And in a landscape like Silicon Valley, I mean, these people do not understand any amount of what we do, and it's completely misunderstood. So Chuck has been fighting this battle for us for a long time, and I have talked to him again on panels. He's been on my podcast, my old podcast, Restless Native. He spoke at a forum, or what was it, a forum? It was like I had like 4 or 5 speakers at an event one time, and he was one of them. And I've gotten to hear this guy talk a lot, and this stuff happens. It's real. It doesn't happen in the way that a lot of people think it does. It is not like Mark Zuckerberg's cronies sitting around being like, oh, this is hunting, I'm going to ban it. And then they do it and then go back to their vegan salad. Like, that's not what's happening. There are protocols, though, that are built in through artificial intelligence, through scanning imagery. Facebook has the most sophisticated content delivery system that's ever been built. They have the most sophisticated advertising platform that has ever been built. And a lot of this stuff in there is, some of it is obviously blatantly biased towards firearms and hunting and stuff. But the other thing that happens is Facebook gets it wrong 200,000 times a day, period. Like across all of the content that they moderate, which is millions, right? It's in the millions of pieces of content that they judge. They screw it up 200,000 times a day, right? And so when you start to think about that, you start to realize a lot of the problem isn't just that Facebook hates hunting. It's not that simple. I know like our industry really wants it to be that way, and we all like black and white answers. Honestly, it's an easier storyline for me. I should really just stop telling people this side of the truth. But a lot of this is like, firearms are complicated, which is kind of funny right now, watching with all the Ukraine stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, you guys have sure seen this. Like, now firearms are good, right? We want firearms. Like, they're all the same places that would tell you, and probably will be telling you again in 6 months why firearms are bad. Right now they're good because they're helping defend against Mr. Putin. And so obviously, like, everybody's all for that, right? But it gets complicated because on these regulations, we all forget about the stuff they also have to regulate. They have problems with live streaming of suicides. They have literally terrorists using their platform to behead people. There are all of the teen depressions and the fighting and the threats. Like, all this stuff is muddy. And it goes in through, again, if they get 200,000 times wrong a day, imagine what that system is that handles this stuff. So there's all these levels. It may be automated. Eventually it might hit a human. That human is going to have like somewhere between 30 and 90 seconds to decide what to do with that content. Do you think the Indian reviewer across the world has any idea that your bloody deer is not something that they should hide? Like, a lot of this stuff is just there's no context to it. Like, we're screwed. We are absolutely screwed in that environment. And so in that environment of where it's like, well, how do you fix that? Like, now I think you can at least see why I tell this side of the story, because you're now like, man, this isn't even just a war on hunting. It's not like I can go convince Mark Zuckerberg to like hunting because he already hunts, right? Like, this is so much worse because we are just complicated. Like, why is over here this gun was bad because it was used for murder or like, again, the beheading or suicide or whatever. But over here, well, these guys are saying that this was good. It's conservation. I can't tell a difference because I don't know anything about this stuff, right? You can see where that gets muddy for a reviewer. And then you're like, man, I don't know how that's ever going to get fixed. You know, the daunting size of that problem, you start to realize it's like, we're not going to fix Facebook. The scale of this has gotten out of control. So you start to say, what else can we do? And I don't know what that, I know it benefits me to say, because I'm the guy that founded GoWild, but I don't know what else to say other than we need platforms of our own to be able to connect with people. Because when you start to see, and I just realized I've been given like a 30-minute answer probably doing.
No, dude, you're on point.
Good, dude. I love it.
But I apologize. Sometimes it takes a while because this stuff is just not as cut and dried as people like to make it out to be. But when you realize, man, like, huge accounts in our industry back in October, Instagram started notifying them. I kind of want to say who they are, but I probably shouldn't, of what brands. I can tell you guys off air. I won't say it on air, but massive brands. I mean, these are brands that are at SHOT Show with giant expensive booths. They had their ability to link out to their websites taken away from them. I mean, like that. We're talking, you got 7 days and then it's not, and then it's gone. Cable Smith. I don't know if you know Cable Smith from the Lone Star Outdoor Show. has literally one of the biggest radio shows in Texas. It is syndicated across like 140 stations. Massive podcaster. He's been podcasting for 10 years or so. One of the first guys in hunting to do it. And he had 150 some thousand followers on Instagram and was deleted. And while cable is politically charged, he does not generally, from what I've seen, violate the terms of Instagram, but he was taken down. And so, you start to look at all this stuff, and it's like you realize how fast this stuff can be taken away from us. And you realize, okay, I'm one of 200,000 things that they screwed up today. The size of that, dude, that is bigger than a lot of people's towns that they live in terms of people that they've screwed up. And you think about trying to climb that slippery slope like that. There's no way. There's just like no way out of that I can see that the industry is going to fix. So my advocation for this has been, the industry needs to support, if not us, someone like us to put money, right? Because so much of the industry spends a ton of time trying to find ways around Facebook's rules to build out entire other websites that don't show guns. We can sell this product, but we'll hide our guns. You wouldn't believe some of the links that I've heard of on the industry side that people go to get around these rules just so that they can keep paying Facebook money, because it's been good. It's like drug money, man. I mean, it was very easy. You come in and you put $1 in and you get 10 out, right? That's like, you may not be a business major, but that's generally good business, right? Like, I want more of that. And it's been cheap revenue. It's been easy. But those good times are going, man. Like the easy advertising days are gone because Apple's cracking down on that. Google just announced they're about to do the same. I spoke at SHOT Show this year, and one of my messages that I left them with was, we need to realize if you're operating only on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever, one of these big Silicon Valley driven platforms, you are building a glass house on sand. And they are throwing rocks your direction. The tide is coming in. Like, you're going to get screwed because the next 10 years look nothing like the last 20, And I don't know how anyone can argue with that, with everything that's going on right now. If you've paid any amount of attention, even if you've seen only a few of the headlines, it's pretty clear to see that like things have changed.
That's one of the most dangerous things, especially for us, like any type of podcast or social media type platform guy, that like we've seen it on Instagram, we've seen it on TikTok, we've seen it on Facebook, where you post something up. Instagram has been the worst lately, though. Like, you post something up and you'll get like 15 likes on something, and then you post something else, so you get 350 likes, and you're like, yeah, it's virtually the same content.
Yeah.
Well, how does this even happen? So obviously like you just explained, they're not purposely attacking us, but that's just the way that it goes.
So they may not be, but what can happen too, and this usually happens to females. For some reason, the antis have like a really hard time with a pretty woman killing an animal. But they'll follow these really big accounts, and they will just report them every time they post something. And it doesn't take a lot of flags to put that into a review. And, now as your account keeps racking up these flags, the risk you run, Chuck kind of calls this, there's like a hammer of death to where they can literally eviscerate your entire account. And this takes out your WhatsApp. It takes away your ability to do payments through it's insane what you lose when you lose your Facebook account. You think about I don't do this because I haven't had a Facebook account for three years, I guess now. But if you're using your Facebook account to do logins, you are setting yourself up for a world of hurt. Because if you can't get into your Facebook account because you got kicked off because you posted about hunting, think of all the stuff you've used that easy Facebook sign-in button for, dude. We did away with that thing. We added it because everybody does it on apps. And then we just, I don't know, there's like I can't remember what the moment exactly was. We were like, ooh, do we want to be in bed with Facebook? No, we're going to get rid of this. I think, I know what it was. They had a bug where that thing broke and it kind of spurred a conversation. This was years ago. And we decided to get rid of it. But what Chuck pointed out is, people run businesses with their Facebook logins onto their business accounts and stuff, and they lose that, and Facebook won't give it back to you, dude. I tell you what, we have spent more time trying on the phone with Facebook employees, and how do I say this without being offensive? Some of their low-level employees that you're going to get on a phone call are borderline like as unintelligent of people that you can find. I mean, they do not care. It's like a summer job almost.
Oh, so the recent college grads.
Yeah, if that, dude. I mean, some of these people,
High school grads.
yeah, I'm trying to think of examples, but I don't want to. And so as soon as I say a job as an example, I'm gonna have like 5 of your listeners be like, that's my daily job, and I've insulted everybody.
Go, yep, go look in the mirror, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Calling it like we see it.
It's like, well, if you get fired, Facebook will take you. But no, man, they're dumb. I mean, they're just dumb.
Yeah,
and
that's horrible.
They don't care. So I'm just telling you, man, this is all. We're living in some weird times. It's all very muddy, very messy, and we haven't even talked about the TikTok problem. So that's just the Facebook side,
TikTok is its own problem.
Dude, TikTok's kind of scary. I mean, you're talking about a Chinese-owned business. ByteDance owns them. The Chinese government can pretty much at any time take over the servers to use that data for whatever they want. If you know anything about China, you know that business is not operating freely. I mean, it's not like China is known for allowing, this is not capitalism, right? This is not what we have and what we're used to. So there's even been reports, and I haven't verified any of this, but you know what? It's a podcast. We'll pass on some rumors. I heard a guy talking about recently the example of the danger of TikTok is the algorithm. And this is true. This is Eric Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google. He's not the previous CEO of Google. This is his main concern with TikTok is what they're feeding us. But this guy was saying, and I don't know, this is the part I don't know if it's true. I do know it's true that most of the TikTok, most viral stuff, the most popular people on TikTok too, are like young female dancers, right? They're dancing sometimes maybe not totally clothed or whatever it is, and they're doing all the stupid little viral stuff. You know what goes viral in China? It's like kids showing science experiments and kids like doing really smart hacks and all this genius viral content. And then over here we have us, like our girls are like shaking their butt, and the dudes are making these absolutely stupid videos that do nothing for your intelligence. And you think about that, that's like, okay, who cares? TikTok's the fastest growing thing that's ever been built, dude. And I mean, they're growing at a pace that has never been seen before. And it is I think it's the first time anybody overtook Google.com within like the last 10 years, and it was TikTok. This is a serious platform that we're talking about. And you think about the power of an entire generation coming up and controlling the narrative. And it's scary stuff, man. I mean, I feel the same way about Google. Google controls, I don't know if y'all know this, Google controls 91.5% of search in the world.
Yep.
They own the second largest search engine, which is bigger than all of the largest competitors combined, which is YouTube. And you just look at I don't care really how you feel about the pandemic or vaccines, just you look at that as an example. How fast were they able to wipe out, and I mean wipe out, any other alternative thought on the vaccine? So think about that in terms of an election, what you search for, how fast they can sway a point literally with the stroke of a few keys, dude. This stuff is scary stuff that we're talking about. And it's like, I get freaked out. I mean, yeah, I love hunting, and hunting is my absolute favorite thing to do. But I mean, we're talking about levels that, like, even right now with Ukraine, who knows if we're all seeing the truth, right? Like all this information we're all getting, I guarantee you are like me. Most of it has been consumed through algorithms, right?
Well,
Who
yeah.
knows?
I mean, your perfect example is coming out day one. They talked about the 13 guys that all got wiped out on Snake
Yeah,
Island.
and now they're like, oh,
and
wait,
they're like,
they're
oh no,
alive.
they're captive on a bus.
Yeah, right. They're like, no, they're good.
yeah.
But then, there's been other examples too of, so much of this stuff's been pro-Ukraine, and a lot of this was coming out that like Russia suffered 3,000 fatalities. And none of this stuff's getting fact-checked, but it's all in line with what
you have the ghost of Kyiv, the mysterious pilot that shot down 6 people and became an ace in a single day, and it's like it's not even possible what the plane he's flying.
Right. It's like it's very interesting, though. These are two great examples of how fast an algorithm can adapt to something that is real time to control how we feel about something. So imagine if they did decide in some of these areas where, this Silicon Valley, let's say California is coming out with legislation and they want to control the narrative on that. It does not take much to impact us. That's anybody can see what happened last year with the vaccines. I mean, literally things that ended up being true. People were deleted off of platforms for saying, for literally things that ended up coming out. The CDC a few months later would confirm were true, but prior, Google and whoever it is wiped them out.
Yeah, but now, you see, back then it was, you got to trust the science. Right. Oh, but now the science has changed.
I know. I totally, right. And we could go down that rabbit hole, but I think that's the best example of, I don't know if you guys heard too, there was like funny with the mask mandates that were being dropped. People are like, as of tomorrow at like 9 a.m. COVID's
you don't need
over.
it anymore.
It's like, wait, what? I had to wear it today, but not tomorrow. So there's like a lot of stupid stuff with all that, right? But the thing you can see is the example of this being played out, and you take out the vaccine and you insert whatever topic that these ginormous platforms manage. It's scary, dude. I mean,
talking about a glass house, man.
Well, and that's the thing is, like you said, take out coronavirus or vaccine, replace it with whitetail hunting.
Yeah.
Anyone who gets on Google and goes, how do, and it has that pops up and they go, oh no, this is wrong. You can't do that because, there's this associated with it. Okay. Well, I better not do that.
And people may think like, oh, but why would that happen? They don't understand the Humane Society and how fast they could tweak. Like the Humane Society, the national organization, I'm not talking about your little local group that saves puppies. They're affiliated, but it's very complicated. And the best thing I can tell you to do to understand that is I did a podcast with the Sportsman's Alliance guys. It's like 2.5 hours long because we drank a bunch of beer together and sat in my conference room and just hung out. But they explain this battle really well on Restless Native. It's around episode 72, or 72, 75. But the Humane Society, it executes better than any organization in history. Forget PETA. This is the group that will come up with narratives that hunters see and they're like, that's not even close to true. Like they'll put a headline that says legislation would stop hunters from pursuing endangered cat or cat species or something like that. And it's like, it's already illegal to hunt that animal, but they'll put that on there as a stamp on top of the thing they really want to happen, which will be like to ban some small fraction of hunting. And then they do viral campaigns on top of this stuff and they just light gas on it. And they've got this down to a science. Evan and Brian Lynn, Evan, I cannot say Evan's last name. It's very long. It starts with an H. Sorry, Evan. They're great dudes though. They came down and we talked about this for hours and it is fascinating. And you can see with the recipe of what they've used for years for whether it's TV or print, like how fast they could do that with an algorithm when we just in the examples of what we just talked about. It is insane, the possibilities there.
This is why GoWild is the place to be then.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel like it at least has to exist. Literally if brands can build for 10 years building up a following of a couple 100,000 followers and then be told tomorrow that none of it matters, you can't link out to your website anymore, that should scare the whole industry. And you'd be surprised, but a lot of these social media managers, man, they're still doing the same old stuff they were doing in 2018 because it's comfortable, but playing with fire, dude.
Oh yeah.
And especially for a lot of like I said before, man, for us that have a podcast that use that platform every day to connect with our followers and stuff like that. And then they could just take it away tomorrow if they wanted to. There's no rhyme or reason.
That would be next level of cancel culture. And I've been proud of Spotify to how they've stood up for Rogan.
Agreed.
And Netflix did the same thing with Dave Chappelle. It's kind of nice to see. I mean, it's very nice to see some brands that will stand up for First Amendment and try to just convince people that we can't cancel everybody that you disagree with, but if it'd be one thing, because Spotify's exclusive with Rogan, but man, if like Apple started taking down, I haven't heard of Apple doing that with podcasts. That would be some next level stuff. People will get worried about us with AWS and with Amazon because they took down Parler, but Parler was I feel like that was a totally out of left field thing that happened. It doesn't freak me out as much as some of this other stuff that we've talked about does.
It's nuts. It kind of opened my eyes, honestly, with everything that you were saying, because I didn't even think of it like that, to be honest. You see it on a very small scale, right? When you're part of it, especially Instagram and social media. I mean, any of the other social media platforms, but to like actually hear what it's actually all about. Dude, I'm almost worried.
I literally could give you examples for days. I mean, I live this stuff, and I mean, we got that last time we got blacklisted on Facebook. It was basically like the combination of the Wall Street Journal was hammering them with those Facebook file articles. I don't know if you guys have read any of those, but that's where all my examples that I come out with come from, because it was literally reported by the Wall Street Journal, which is that's one of the best news organizations we have left, right? This was stuff that was thoroughly researched. This is Facebook's own data that's getting leaked out, where they're allowing drug cartel recruitment. They're allowing terrorists to operate on this platform. I mean, all that stuff I rattled off earlier is from real reporting. That's not like me reading a meme. I think way too much news comes from memes. This was real reported stuff, dude. And people, this kind of goes back to the laughing point of and I'm the extremist because I'm informed on this stuff, right? It's like, people think I'm crazy because I say this, and it's kind of funny because I live in this world where like people that don't know anything about it think I'm crazy, and then people that are in the industry think I'm crazy because I'm talking about it and they don't think it's going to happen. And then at some point it's gonna I don't know what the tipping point's going to be, because I feel like we've already lived through a lot of it, a lot of examples of people getting either deplatformed or throttled or censored or deleted.
It's going to be
TikTok is gobbling people up. Melissa Bachman, the TV show host, Winchester's Most Deadly Passion, I think is the name of her show. She got kicked off for posting pictures of her kid in camo. I mean, I can't. She was on that panel with me and Chuck last month, and I can't even remember the silly examples she gave. But again, pretty females, man, they get people riled up when they have guns.
Yeah, because they know that they can influence a lot of other people. Most of the the population of the outdoors. I mean, who's everybody looking out for? Hannah Barron, Melissa Bachman. I mean, they're all women influencers that every male in the outdoor industry is following and watching to see what they do. So of course they can take control over everything. Yeah,
Hannah's one that her content, I don't think she's really gotten the shadow ban yet, which is interesting because she's still growing like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
She really is, honestly. In this past couple of years, she's really taken off with it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not on Instagram anymore, but I mean, she seems like she still posts pretty raw stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like she stayed true to herself. It's kind of an interesting situation.
Yeah, she's one of the only, I think, that haven't sold out to the community.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe Hannah's slipping them hundreds under the table. I'm just kidding. Hannah's sweet.
Poor Hannah.
Hannah. I don't know her well, but she was on one my other podcast way early, and she's blown up even more since then. That was like 4 years ago, almost to the month. But she is super sweet, and it's been kind of insane to watch her become how big she is.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's probably bigger than Cam Hanes now, isn't she? Or at least close, which is nuts,
It is. It honestly is. And she's a very humble, good person. Her and her father. Yeah. Like you can actually hold the conversation with her no matter what. And she hasn't changed. Like you said, she stayed true to who she actually is.
Yeah.
Which is very important. Very important. Well, man, I do have one last question before we wrap things up here. And it's one that we ask everybody, man. It's what drives you outdoors, Brad?
Food. 100% food. I love to cook. If I probably if I lived near the coast, I wouldn't hunt as much because like I love saltwater fish. And I don't mean to say I don't love hunting. Obviously, I love hunting, but you know, man, the stuff you can go out and come back with in Florida, you know, versus here where the food fare is not as good from our rivers as what you can get on the coast, right? But man, I have really over the years gotten obsessed with cooking. I have 2 smokers, Big Green Egg. I've got a Oklahoma Joe reverse offset smoker, which people make fun of me because I say the whole name of the smoker, but it matters.
It does.
And it does. And I'm obsessive about barbecue. I'm obsessive about you know, doing really not. I don't want to say fancy, but like just challenging meals to cook. I love it, man, and I'm very, very passionate about the acquisition of protein. So you know, for me, I take a lot of pride in not only processing my deer myself, but like using absolutely everything I can off a deer. I usually, you know, I'm tossing like the spinal column. You know, I'm trying to get down to like very little going back. You know, I'm taking the trachea and smoking it for my dog. I'm, you know, smoking the bones and giving to him, or making stock, and you know, really trying to get as much out of that as possible. But I love the moment where I can give somebody a plate of venison and they're like, holy shit, I did not know that deer was like this. You know, when I get to watch somebody go through that moment and realize that every preconceived notion they had of whitetail was wrong, and even to the point to where they start asking me questions about how I do it, like to me, I can do more with a plate of food to convince somebody that hunting's okay than any amount of talking. So that's what gets me outside. I love that part of it. And I mean, part 2 of that answer is, you know, the stuff that nobody else gets to see. You know, I've tried to tell my wife, like, please go out and listen. My wife doesn't hunt. Her family's from Chicago, and you know, they just she likes to hike and camp, but is very disinterested in that side of it, which is okay. I guess it kind of means I got my own thing I can do. But I've tried to get her to go out and just listen to turkeys, because most people don't know what a gobble really sounds like. They think it's gobble gobble like a cartoon, and they've never heard that conversation. And you know, this past winter or fall, when I was whitetail hunting, I was watching hawk, you know, dive bomb squirrels on a creek, and it's just like, you know, people think they know nature because they hike, but nature knows you're there when you're hiking, man. Nothing shows you nature like the world waking up not knowing you've crept in, you know. And that's a close second to the food for me.
Absolutely.
I like it. Both very valid points. And I probably
2 that don't get talked about.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably the most professional way I've ever heard of eating being stated. That was
truth to that.
That was very impressive.
That's the obsessive way. Yeah, my team knows that, like, if we do a podcast, like I have a show called Gearbox Talk, and they know if I host one about food, they're supposed to be 20 minutes long, and it's like they're going to be 45 to an hour. I just can't. I can't. I had a guy on the other day, Jed Conklin, and we were supposed to talk about he's got a wild, like as wild as you're allowed to sell. Like it's one of those restaurants that is wild game themed, and he came on, and we were talking about all the non-traditional cuts that a lot of people leave in the field or they don't know to use. And so he came on and we were talking about all this, and I was like, we're going to do this show in 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, we had gotten through like a question and a half. So
yeah, I know how that one goes.
Those are the best podcasts, though.
They are, man. I mean, anytime that you're not looking at a watch and you kind of forget your podcast, and that's when you're doing a good job. Tonight's been that. I just now looked down because I was like, oh, he said last question. What time is it? And I had no idea. So
yeah, man. That's why I said it's been great. We've been able to sit back and you're just hammering away. It's wonderful.
I know, man. It's
good information.
I'm a good guest in that I'll make your all's job easy. That I'll get rambling on a tear about censorship, and then like 20 minutes later, you're like, question number 2, Brad. You know?
No, like you said, those are the best shows.
That's why we do unstructured.
Yes, just
and unscripted.
off the hip, man, wherever it goes.
Yeah, no, I like it. I used to run a show like that, and I miss doing my old show, Restless Native, because it was very much like that. We abandoned that show because Gearbox Talk was doing so well. Gearbox Talk did like twice the annual volume of that old show, and so we went in all in on that. And then I guess because I have I have a masochistic thing where I have to like suffer. I started another podcast, so I have 2 podcasts that we do now. So we're cranking out like 8 podcasts a month. The other one's Uncensored by GoWild, which is mostly us just sitting down, and our team every Monday morning talks about what we did over the weekend. And it's basically goofy stories and us making fun of each other. So
Good times. Well,
yeah, it's a fun show.
Where are all the different places they can find you, as well as how do they get the app?
Yeah, so I'm not on all the social platforms, so this is going to be easy. I'm most active on 2 platforms. Obviously, GoWild. If you go to GoWild's website, which is downloadgowild.com, you'll get a quick link to install the app. A couple reasons you should do that. The first is we're going to give you $10. I mean, literally, you get $10 for creating an account. You'll get it populated to your homepage just for creating an account. Like $10 to sign up. It's awesome. It's a promotion we're doing right now, and you can start testing out the app. The second reason is if you want to message me about anything, GoWild's the best place to do it. You will get an automated message welcoming you to the platform from me. I do not actually send that because I'm not sitting at my computer sending thousands of those a week. But if you respond, I do respond back. So it's a fun way to tell me like, hey, heard about you on this podcast. Here's a question, or just to say hi. I always think that's really cool to hear about people and realize like what show that led to that. The other place I'm really active is LinkedIn. I talked a little bit about some of the business side of this today, but if that's something somebody's interested in, a lot of people want to know how to get their product off the ground. They want to know how to take their idea to reality and quit their day job. I went through that, and one of my goals with my LinkedIn content is sharing helpful tips. And I've gotten really passionate about that platform because it's taken off for me. And I have more reach there than anything I've ever touched, outside of our platform. I'm sharing a lot of those tips that can kind of help you find your way if you are trying to break into the outdoor industry. So it's a totally different vibe than what I'm putting on my GoWild account, which is much more of like my cooking and my terrible hunting stories. We didn't even talk about my horrible Kentucky season. We'll do that next time, maybe. But all that stuff's on my GoWild account. So follow me on LinkedIn and download GoWild. We can connect there.
Outstanding. Well,
and then the 2 podcasts that I mentioned, I normally don't push these, but since we mentioned them, we're on YouTube with both of those. But if you want to just look them up on the podcast feed, it's Uncensored by GoWild, and then the other one is just Gearbox Talk.
Outstanding. Well, everybody, you know where to find him. Make sure you go and check him out. Download the app and get involved. Start getting your points built up now. And until then, we just want to thank you guys for taking the ride right here on the Outdoor Drive.